What if you could uncover the secret to a happier, more peaceful life in just a few simple truths? What if the wisdom that has transformed millions of lives over thousands of years could now guide you on your journey? Welcome back to our exploration of the origins of Buddhism. This series is designed to illuminate not only the history, but also the profound teachings that continue to inspire people across the globe. In the first video, we journeyed to the roots of Buddhism, exploring its historical and cultural origins. In the second, we followed the remarkable life of Siddhartha Gautama, the man who transcended worldly attachments to become the Buddha. Now, in this third video, we uncover the heart of his teachings, the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. Why should you stay with us through this series? Because understanding Buddhism is not just about knowledge, it's about transformation. This series isn't simply a history lesson. It's an opportunity to discover insights that can help you navigate life's challenges with clarity, compassion, and wisdom. By watching all 8 videos, you'll gain a deeper understanding of Buddhism's origins, its practical applications, and its potential to bring inner peace and fulfillment. What's in today's video? In this installment, we focus on the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, the core of Buddha's message to humanity. These teachings explain the universal experience of suffering and provide a step-by-step guide to overcoming it. Imagine a life where suffering no longer controls you, a life of balance, mindfulness, and true liberation. That's what this video will help you explore. So, are you ready to embark on this next step of discovery? Let's dive into the timeless truths that have guided seekers for centuries. Together, let's uncover the Buddha's path to liberation and how it can transform your life today. Let's begin. Understanding the Four Noble Truths, a universal wisdom. The Four Noble Truths, known as Katararya Satya in Sanskrit or Tu Juda in Vietnamese, are at the very core of Buddhist philosophy. These truths are not commandments or dogmas. They are observations about the nature of life, based on the Buddha's direct insight after attaining enlightenment. They serve as a framework for understanding the human condition and provide a path to transcend suffering. What exactly are the Four Noble Truths? At their essence, they are answers to a universal question: why do we suffer, and how can we overcome it? These truths encapsulate the Buddha's realization of the causes and solutions to suffering, offering a roadmap that anyone can follow, regardless of background, beliefs, or circumstances. Why are they called Noble Truths? The term noble, Arya, signifies their elevated status. They are truths discovered and taught by an awakened being, the Buddha, who sought to liberate humanity from suffering. They are truths because they reflect the reality of existence as it is, not as we wish it to be. By understanding these truths, we can begin to see life with greater clarity, shedding illusions and embracing a path toward inner peace. Breaking down the Four Noble Truths. Each of the Four Noble Truths addresses a key aspect of life. First, the truth of suffering, dukkha. Second, the truth of the cause of suffering, samudaya. Third, the truth of the end of suffering, nirodha. Fourth, the truth of the path leading to the end of suffering, magga. Together, they form a cycle, acknowledging suffering, understanding its roots, realizing its cessation is possible, and following the path to achieve that cessation. Unlike abstract philosophy, these truths are deeply practical. They guide us toward a life of balance, mindfulness, and ultimate liberation. The relevance of the Four Noble Truths today. Though discovered over 2.500 years ago, the Four Noble Truths remain timeless. They address the universal challenges of life: dissatisfaction, impermanence, and the relentless pursuit of happiness that often leaves us feeling empty. In a world filled with distractions, anxieties, and uncertainties, these teachings offer a way to pause, reflect, and reconnect with what truly matters. In the following sections, we will explore each of these noble truths in detail, uncovering their profound wisdom and learning how they can be applied in our daily lives. Let us begin with the first truth, dukkha, the reality of suffering. The first noble truth, Dukkha, the reality of suffering. The journey into the Four Noble Truths begins with a profound realization. Suffering is an inherent part of life. This is the first noble truth, known as dukkha in Pali, often translated as suffering or unsatisfactoriness. Yet, what exactly is dukkha? It is much more than physical pain or emotional distress. It is the underlying dissatisfaction that touches every corner of existence. At its core, dukkha reflects the fragility and impermanence of life. It is the uncomfortable truth that even the most joyous moments are fleeting, and that everything we hold dear is subject to change. Birth, aging, illness, and death are the most obvious forms of suffering, but it also manifests subtly in the frustration of unmet desires, the anxiety of losing what we cherish, or the sense of emptiness that can arise even when life seems perfect. The Buddha described dukkha using a powerful metaphor. Life is like a wheel that is slightly off-center. No matter how smoothly it turns, it will always wobble. This wobble, the sense that something is not quite right, is what the first noble truth seeks to address. But how can we recognize suffering without falling into despair? The Buddha's message is not one of hopelessness, but of clarity. He emphasized that acknowledging suffering is the first step toward freedom. Just as a doctor diagnoses an illness before prescribing a cure, recognizing dukkha allows us to begin the process of healing and transformation. In our daily lives, dukkha is everywhere, from the small frustrations to the larger struggles, the disappointment of an unfulfilled dream, the fleeting nature of material success, or even something as simple as craving a cup of coffee in the morning, can all illustrate this truth. The craving creates a subtle tension, and while the first sip may bring relief, it is only temporary. Soon, the craving returns, and the cycle continues. Why is it essential to understand dukkha? Because in recognizing it, we shift our perspective. Suffering is not a personal failing. It is a universal reality shared by all beings. This understanding fosters compassion, both for ourselves and for others. It also lays the foundation for exploring deeper truths about the causes of suffering and how we can overcome it. By fully embracing the wisdom of the first noble truth, we take the first step on the path to liberation. To live is to experience dukkha, and in acknowledging this, we begin to see the possibility of freedom beyond it. The second noble truth, samadaya, the cause of suffering. Understanding that suffering is a universal reality is just the beginning. The Buddha did not stop at merely identifying the presence of dukkha. He delved deeper to uncover its root cause, offering us the second noble truth, samadaya, the truth of the origin of suffering. So, what lies at the heart of our suffering? The Buddha taught that it is craving, tanha in Pali, an insatiable desire that keeps us perpetually unsatisfied. This craving manifests in many ways: the longing for pleasure, the attachment to possessions, and the constant yearning for things to be different than they are. It is this cycle of wanting, clinging, and resisting that fuels our suffering. Craving is not limited to material things. It also extends to our emotional and mental states. We crave recognition, security, and control. We become attached to ideas of who we think we should be, or how the world should operate. When reality falls short of these expectations, suffering arises. This truth encourages us to reflect on our own lives. How often do we find ourselves chasing after fleeting pleasures, hoping they will bring lasting happiness, only to feel empty when they fade away? Or clinging to things we fear to lose, creating a constant undercurrent of anxiety? By shining a light on this craving, the Buddha helps us see the cycle for what it truly is, a source of endless dissatisfaction. But the second noble truth is not about blame or guilt. Craving is a natural part of human existence. It arises from our instincts and our desire to avoid discomfort. The Buddha's insight is not meant to condemn us, but to empower us. By recognizing this craving, we can begin to loosen its grip and take steps toward liberation. To truly understand samadaya, we must also acknowledge its companion, attachment. Craving leads to attachment. and attachment binds us to the very things that cause our suffering. It is like holding tightly to a rope that burns our hands, yet we refuse to let go because we believe the rope is our salvation. Recognizing the cause of suffering is a profound act of awareness. It allows us to see how our desires and attachments shape our experiences, and it points the way toward freedom. As we continue, the third noble truth will show us that liberation is not only possible, it is within reach. The third noble truth, Nirodha, the end of suffering. If the first noble truth acknowledges the reality of suffering, and the second noble truth uncovers its cause, the third noble truth offers hope. Suffering can end. This is the essence of Nirodha, the cessation of suffering. The Buddhist teachings are not merely about understanding pain. They are about transcending it. Imagine for a moment a state of complete peace, a life unburdened by the cravings, attachments, and anxieties that weigh us down. This is the promise of the third noble truth. It tells us that liberation, or nirvana, is not only possible but achievable. What is nirvana? Nirvana is often misunderstood as a mystical or distant concept, but in the Buddhist teachings, it is a deeply practical reality. It is the extinguishing of craving and the freedom from the cycles of suffering. The word itself means to blow out, like a flame being extinguished. In this case, it refers to the extinguishing of the fires of desire, hatred, and ignorance. Nirvana is not a place or a destination. It is a state of being. It is the profound peace that arises when we let go of attachments and fully embrace the present moment. It is the end of the inner turmoil that keeps us restless and dissatisfied. The path to cessation. The third noble truth is not just an abstract idea. It is a call to action. It reminds us that while suffering is a universal truth, it is not permanent. The cycle of craving and attachment can be broken. The Buddha himself is proof of this. Through his own awakening, he demonstrated that liberation is within reach. For all who seek it, the cessation of suffering begins with awareness. When we recognize how craving fuels our dissatisfaction, we can begin to interrupt the cycle. This process does not require us to abandon everything we love or retreat from the world. Instead, it invites us to engage with life more mindfully, appreciating its impermanence without clinging to it. Practical insights for everyday life. How can we bring the wisdom of Nirodha into our daily lives? It starts with small steps. Practicing mindfulness to observe our cravings without judgment. A letting go of the need to control outcomes and accepting life as it is. A finding contentment in the present moment, rather than chasing after future desires. The third noble truth is a reminder that peace is not something we need to create. It is already within us. By letting go of what holds us back, we uncover the clarity and calm that have always been there. As we move forward, the fourth noble truth will provide us with a practical path to make this liberation a reality. It is the blueprint for living a life of wisdom, compassion, and freedom. The fourth noble truth, Magga, the path to the end of suffering. The fourth noble truth is the culmination of the Buddhist teachings, a practical guide to ending suffering and achieving liberation, known as Magga, or the Eightfold Path. It is the roadmap to nirvana. While the first three truths diagnose suffering and its causes, the fourth noble truth provides the remedy, a clear, actionable path toward freedom. What is the Eightfold Path? The Eightfold Path is not a strict set of rules, but a flexible framework that integrates wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. It is often represented as a wheel with 8 spokes, symbolizing balance and interconnection. Each aspect of the path supports and strengthens the others, creating a holistic approach to transforming the mind and heart. The 8 components of the path are divided into 3 categories. First, wisdom, prajna, right view, right intention. Second, ethical conduct, sila, right speech, right action, right livelihood. Third, mental discipline, samadhi, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. A path for everyone. Unlike some spiritual teachings that are reserved for the few, the Eightfold Path is accessible to all. It does not require abandoning worldly life or adopting ascetic practices. Instead, it invites us to live with greater awareness, integrity, and compassion, regardless of our circumstances. The path is not linear but cyclical. We do not need to master one step before moving on to the next. Rather, we cultivate all 8 aspects simultaneously, deepening our understanding and practice over time. Walking the path in daily life. The Eightfold Path is deeply practical, offering guidance for every aspect of life. Consider how each element can be integrated into your daily routine. Right view. Seeing the world as it truly is, through the lens of the Four Noble Truths. Right intention. Approaching life with compassion, kindness, and a commitment to non-harm. Right speech. Speaking truthfully, avoiding gossip, and using words to uplift others. Right action. Living ethically, refraining from harm, and promoting peace. Right livelihood. Choosing work that aligns with your values and does not harm others. Right effort. Cultivating positive habits and letting go of harmful patterns. Right mindfulness. Staying present and aware in every moment. Right concentration. Developing focus and clarity through meditation. The ultimate goal. The Eightfold Path is not a quick fix or a shortcut. It is a lifelong journey of transformation. But with each step we take, we move closer to a life of peace, clarity, and liberation. The path reminds us that freedom is not something we achieve overnight. It is the result of consistent effort and practice. As we reflect on the Four Noble Truths, it becomes clear that they are not just teachings to be understood, they are truths to be lived. By embracing the Fourth Noble Truth and committing to the Eightfold Path, we embark on a journey toward a more mindful, compassionate, and meaningful life. Reflecting on the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths are not just teachings to be understood, they are truths to be lived. They serve as both a mirror and a guide, reflecting the universal experiences of life, while pointing the way toward liberation. By contemplating these truths, we begin to see the deeper layers of existence and how we can transform suffering into wisdom. A journey through the Four Truths. The first noble truth opens our eyes to the reality of suffering, or dukkha. It invites us to acknowledge life's challenges without denial or despair, understanding that dissatisfaction is a universal experience. But this is only the starting point. The second noble truth reveals the root cause of this suffering, craving, or tanha. This craving manifests in our desires, attachments, and resistance to change, keeping us trapped in cycles of dissatisfaction. The third noble truth brings hope. It assures us that suffering is not a permanent state. Through nirodha, the cessation of craving, we can break free from the cycles of pain and dissatisfaction. This truth points us toward nirvana, a state of profound peace and liberation. Yet, recognizing the possibility of freedom is not enough. We need a path to achieve it. That path is laid out in the Fourth Noble Truth, Magga, or the Eightfold Path. Why these truths matter? By embracing these Four Noble Truths, we are not simply gaining knowledge. We are being invited to embark on a journey of transformation. Each truth builds upon the last, guiding us step by step toward greater clarity, compassion, and freedom. But why do these truths matter so much? It is because they resonate deeply with the human experience. They help us make sense of our struggles, showing that suffering is not a personal failure, but a universal reality. This understanding fosters compassion for ourselves and others, and empowers us to take meaningful action in our lives. Practical wisdom for today. The Four Noble Truths are also profoundly practical. They remind us that transformation begins with awareness, grows through understanding, and is realized through practice. As the Buddha said, "I teach only two things, suffering and the end of suffering." These truths encapsulate that simplicity, offering a framework that is as relevant today as it was 2.500 years ago. Looking ahead, as we conclude this exploration, we look forward to the next step in our journey, the Eightfold Path. This is where the teachings of the Four Noble Truths come to life, offering practical steps for living a life of wisdom, mindfulness, and compassion. Together, let us continue on this journey, bringing these timeless truths into our daily lives and uncovering the peace that lies within. The Eightfold Path, a practical guide to liberation. Having explored the Four Noble Truths in depth, we now turn our attention to the practical heart of the Buddha's teachings, the Eightfold Path. This is where the journey moves from understanding to action, from concept to practice. The Eightfold Path, or Magga, is the fourth noble truth in action, a clear and structured way to overcome suffering and cultivate a life of wisdom, compassion, and mindfulness, a framework for practice. The Buddha often emphasized that his teachings were not meant to be accepted blindly, but to be practiced and experienced directly. The Eightfold Path provides us with the tools to do just that. It is a practical framework that guides us in every aspect of life, helping us align our actions, thoughts, and intentions with the deeper truths we have come to understand. 3 categories of the Eightfold Path. The path is divided into 3 interconnected categories. First, wisdom, prajna, developing the right understanding and intention. Second, ethical conduct, sila, living in alignment with ethical principles through right speech, right action, and right livelihood. Third, mental discipline, samadhi, cultivating mindfulness, focus, and effort to transform the mind, a dynamic approach. Now, we begin the journey of applying these principles in our daily lives. The Eightfold Path is not a rigid sequence to be followed step by step. Rather, it is a dynamic and integrated approach. Each element strengthens and supports the others, creating a harmonious and balanced way of living. Exploring wisdom. In this section, we will explore each element of the path in detail, beginning with wisdom, the foundation of spiritual progress. Let us delve into the first 2 steps of the Eightfold Path, right view and right intention. Wisdom, right view, and right intention. The Eightfold Path begins with wisdom, prajna, the foundation for all spiritual progress. Wisdom, in the Buddha's teachings, is not just intellectual knowledge, but a profound understanding of the true nature of reality. It starts with right view, the first step on this transformative path. Right view, seeing reality clearly. To cultivate right view means to see reality as it truly is. It is the clarity that arises when we understand the Four Noble Truths, recognizing suffering, its causes, its cessation, and the path that leads to liberation. Right view also calls us to reflect on impermanence, or anicca. Life is in constant flux. Nothing remains the same forever. By accepting this truth, we free ourselves from clinging and open the door to peace. Another vital part of right view is understanding karma, the principle that our actions have consequences. Every thought, word, and deed shapes our future. This insight encourages mindfulness and responsibility in how we live. Developing right view is like polishing a mirror that has long been clouded. With each layer removed, we see the world more clearly and truthfully. Right intention, aligning our thoughts. Building upon this foundation is right intention, which focuses on aligning our thoughts and motivations with compassion and kindness. It encourages us to let go of harmful desires and replace them with thoughts that reflect goodwill, renunciation, and non-harm. Right intention can be broken down into 3 aspects. First, the intention of renunciation invites us to release attachment and craving, finding contentment in simplicity. Second, the intention of goodwill asks us to cultivate compassion and loving kindness, letting go of anger or resentment. Finally, the intention of harmlessness inspires us to live without causing harm to any living being. Reflection and transformation. These aspects of right intention challenge us to pause and reflect. What drives our actions? Are we motivated by selfishness, anger, or ignorance? Or do we act with generosity, patience, and understanding? By focusing on wholesome intentions, we lay the groundwork for ethical conduct and mental clarity. Wisdom as the foundation. In essence, right view, and right intention are the foundation stones of the Eightfold Path. Together, they help us see clearly and act wisely, creating a solid base for the journey ahead. As we move forward, we transition from wisdom to ethical conduct, exploring how right speech, right action, and right livelihood guide our interactions with the world. Ethical conduct, right speech, right action, and right livelihood. As we continue along the Eightfold Path, we now shift our focus to ethical conduct, how we align our actions with integrity and compassion. This section emphasizes three essential practices: using speech wisely, acting with kindness, and choosing work that supports rather than harms others. Right speech, the power of words. Let's begin with the first practice, using words mindfully. The Buddha called this right speech, and it's about understanding the incredible power of our words. Words can heal or harm, bring people together, or drive them apart. Practicing right speech means speaking truthfully, avoiding gossip or harsh words, and using our voice to uplift others. Imagine a moment of tension or conflict. Choosing kind and thoughtful words instead of angry ones can completely transform the situation. Right speech invites us to ask before speaking, is this true? Is it helpful? Is it kind? When we communicate with intention and care, we not only strengthen relationships, but also create a ripple effect of positivity in the world. Right action, living with integrity. Next, let's talk about right action, which guides how we behave in our daily lives. This practice is about living with integrity and avoiding harm. It encourages us to respect life, refrain from stealing, and act in ways that promote peace and well-being for everyone. It's not about following rigid rules, but about being mindful of how our actions affect others. For example, showing kindness to animals, reducing waste, or helping someone in need reflect the spirit of right action. By living in alignment with our values, we create a foundation of trust and harmony, both within ourselves and in our communities. Right livelihood, work in harmony with values. Finally, let's explore the third aspect of ethical conduct, how we earn a living. The Buddha called this right livelihood, and it's about choosing work that aligns with our values. It asks us to avoid professions that harm others or exploit the environment, and instead engage in work that uplifts and benefits society. This doesn't mean you need to completely change your job tomorrow, but it does mean reflecting on whether your work contributes to well-being or perpetuates harm. A profession that respects life, promotes sustainability, or supports others is in harmony with right livelihood. Ethical conduct in daily life. By practicing mindful speech, compassionate action, and ethical livelihood, we align our external lives with our inner values. Ethical conduct isn't just about rules. It's about creating a life that reflects kindness, integrity, and respect for all beings. Now, let us continue our journey along the Eightfold Path by exploring mental discipline, how we train the mind through effort, mindfulness, and concentration. Mental discipline, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. As we journey further along the Eightfold Path, we come to the final category, mental discipline. This is where we train our minds, refining our thoughts, focus, and awareness. Mental discipline helps us develop inner clarity and resilience, transforming how we respond to life's challenges. Right effort, cultivating positive habits. Let's start with the first aspect of mental discipline, right effort. This practice is about cultivating positive habits and letting go of harmful patterns. The Buddha often compared the mind to a garden. If we want it to flourish, we must nurture wholesome seeds, qualities like kindness, patience, and compassion, while weeding out negativity, such as anger, greed, and jealousy. Right effort doesn't mean forcing ourselves to be perfect. Instead, it's about being consistent and intentional. Think of it as gently redirecting your energy toward what supports your growth and well-being. For example, dedicating a few moments each day to reflect on gratitude, or reframing negative thoughts into positive ones, are simple ways to embody right effort, right mindfulness, being fully present. From effort, we naturally move into right mindfulness, which is the practice of being fully present. Right mindfulness teaches us to observe our thoughts, emotions, and surroundings without judgment, allowing us to respond to life with greater clarity and calm. Imagine walking through a park, truly noticing the colors of the leaves, the sound of birds, or the sensation of the wind. That's mindfulness in action, being fully engaged in the moment. But mindfulness isn't just for peaceful times. It's also for moments of stress, when we bring awareness to our breath, or pause to observe our feelings. We create space to choose a thoughtful response, rather than reacting impulsively. Right concentration, focusing the mind. Finally, let's explore right concentration, which is the practice of focusing the mind. Right concentration is often developed through meditation, where we train our attention to stay steady and centered. It's like sharpening a tool. The more we refine our focus, the more effectively we can use it. Meditation helps us quiet distractions, allowing us to connect deeply with the present moment. Over time, this practice leads to a profound sense of peace and clarity. Even outside of formal meditation, right concentration can be cultivated in simple ways. Focusing fully on a task without multitasking, or being fully present in a conversation, transforming the mind. Together, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration create a foundation for transforming the mind. They empower us to approach life with greater awareness, patience, and focus, helping us navigate both challenges and joys with wisdom and grace. As we conclude our exploration of mental discipline, we see how it supports and strengthens every other aspect of the Eightfold Path. Let us now reflect on the path as a whole and its transformative power in our lives. Reflecting on the Eightfold Path. As we complete our journey through the Eightfold Path, we come to appreciate its profound simplicity and universal wisdom. This path is not a rigid doctrine, but a practical guide, a way of living that touches every aspect of our lives. It reminds us that liberation from suffering is not an abstract idea, but something achievable through consistent practice and awareness. The path in summary. The Eightfold Path begins with wisdom, where right view helps us see the world clearly, and right intention aligns our thoughts with compassion and non-harm. It then moves into ethical conduct, teaching us to use words mindfully with right speech, act with integrity through right action, and live a life of purpose with right livelihood. Finally, the path deepens into mental discipline, where right effort helps us cultivate positive habits. Right mindfulness brings us into the present moment, and right concentration sharpens our focus and clarity, a harmonious whole. Together, these 8 steps form a harmonious whole. Each element supports and strengthens the others, creating a balanced and integrated way of life. The Eightfold Path is not about perfection. It is about progress. It encourages us to embrace the journey, recognizing that each step forward, no matter how small, is meaningful. Why this path matters. But why does this path matter? Because it transforms not just how we think, but how we live. It gives us the tools to navigate life's challenges with wisdom and grace, fostering inner peace and compassion for others. In a world often marked by distraction and division, the Eightfold Path offers a way to reconnect with ourselves, with others, and with the deeper truths of existence. An invitation to live intentionally. As we reflect on the Eightfold Path, let us remember that it is more than a teaching. It is an invitation to live with intention, to cultivate mindfulness, and to approach life with an open heart and a clear mind. It is a call to action, reminding us that the path to liberation is walked not in a single moment, but in every moment. Looking ahead, in the next part of this series, we will explore how Buddhism spread across the world, evolving into various schools and traditions, while maintaining its core teachings. Together, let us continue this journey of discovery, learning how these timeless truths have shaped not only individual lives, but entire cultures. Why these teachings matter today. The Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path, though born over 2.500 years ago, remain as relevant today as they were in ancient times. In our fast-paced, ever-changing world, where stress and anxiety are all too common, these teachings offer us timeless wisdom and practical tools to navigate life's challenges with clarity and peace. Timeless relevance. Let's start with their timeless relevance. The Four Noble Truths give us a framework to understand the universal reality of suffering. It's not just something people experienced in the Buddha's time. It's something we all face today, from the pressure of deadlines to the pain of loss or the uncertainty of the future. The Buddha's insights remind us, suffering isn't a personal failure. It's a shared experience of being human, and the Eightfold Path offers a way out of this suffering. It's not a rigid set of rules, but a flexible guide for living with mindfulness, compassion, and balance. These principles transcend time and culture, adapting effortlessly to the modern world and offering hope to anyone seeking peace and fulfillment. Practical applications in modern life. But how can we apply these teachings in our lives today? Take mindfulness, for example, a key element of the Eightfold Path. In moments of stress or anxiety, mindfulness can help us anchor ourselves in the present moment, breaking free from the cycle of worry about the past or future. Imagine pausing during a busy day to take a few mindful breaths, feeling the weight of tension ease as you reconnect with the here and now, or consider the wisdom of impermanence. The Buddha taught us to accept change as a natural part of life. This perspective can help us face uncertainty with greater ease. Instead of resisting the unknown, we can find peace in letting go of the need for control and embracing life's ever-changing flow. And let's not forget the power of compassion. In a world often filled with competition and division, the principles of right intention and right action encourage us to approach others with kindness and understanding. Even small acts of compassion, a kind word, a moment of patience, can create ripples of positivity in our relationships and communities. Living fully in modern life. These teachings are not about escaping modern life. They're about living more fully within it. Whether you're a student, a professional, or someone simply trying to find balance, the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path offer practical guidance to help you grow, connect, and thrive. By integrating these principles into our lives, we not only transform ourselves, but also contribute to a more compassionate and mindful world. These ancient truths remind us that the path to peace and happiness begins not outside us, but within us. Your Journey Toward Enlightenment. As we come to the end of this exploration, let us take a moment to reflect on the profound wisdom of the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. These teachings are not just ideas to ponder. They are tools for transformation, a guide to help us navigate life's challenges with clarity, compassion, and purpose. The essence of the teachings. The Four Noble Truths remind us of the universality of suffering and, more importantly, show us that freedom from suffering is possible. The Eightfold Path then offers us a practical way to walk this journey, a roadmap to cultivate mindfulness, ethical living, and wisdom. Your next step. But these teachings are only as powerful as the steps we take to embody them. So let me ask you, what step will you take today toward inner peace? Perhaps it's pausing for a moment of mindfulness, choosing words that reflect kindness, or simply recognizing the impermanence of a challenging situation and letting it go. Each small step matters, and each step brings you closer to a life of greater balance and joy. The journey of progress. The journey toward enlightenment is not about perfection, it's about progress. It's about showing up for yourself and others with an open heart and a clear mind. These teachings remind us that the path to peace begins within us, in how we think, how we act, and how we show up in the world. Guided by ancient wisdom, as you continue on this journey, know that you are not alone. These teachings have guided countless seekers over thousands of years, and they remain as relevant and accessible today as ever. The Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. are here to support you, to inspire you, and to remind you of the limitless potential that lies within, an invitation to transformation. So, I invite you to take this wisdom to heart. Practice it in your daily life. Share it with others. Let it transform not only how you live, but also how you see the world. And remember, every step you take on this path is a step toward greater peace, compassion, and understanding. A final note of gratitude. Thank you for joining me on this journey. May the teachings of the Buddha continue to inspire you and guide you toward the enlightenment and inner peace you seek.